Jordan Brand has come out with yet another Craft shoe. The most recent addition to the Craft family was the Jordan 5 Craft that I just reviewed. Really like that shoe. Probably my favorite shoe out of the whole Craft line. And this time, they're bringing the Craft to yet another Jordan 1. They've already done this with a few Jordan 1 mids, a few Jordan 1 lows. Never really liked those. They had that exposed material on the toe box that I just really hate. I think it looks gross. But this time, on the Jordan 1 High, thankfully, they didn't go that route. Air Jordan 1 High OG Craft. Vibrations of Niger. Now I'm gonna start with how confused I am about this whole release. Early news and early images of the shoe refer to the shoe as the Jordan 1 High Vibrations of Niger. Niger, if you didn't know, means Nigeria. So it's clearly going for a shoe that draws inspiration from Nigeria. And we've seen Nike draw inspiration from that country before. You've seen it on the Air Prestos, you've seen it on the Air Max 95, the Zoom Freaks. They all featured a heavy use of green. Obviously the color of the flag of Nigeria is green and white, so that totally makes sense. However, for this shoe, when images first came out and it had that name attached to it, I could not figure out where the Nigerian influence was. I googled and did so much research trying to find out, and the only thing one would assume would be the inspiration would be this very distinct pattern and material used on the swoosh and the ankle collar, but it doesn't say that anywhere in any article, and Nike's official news release actually doesn't even call this shoe Vibrations of Niger. It just refers it to as an Air Jordan 1 High OG Craft, and obviously we've seen the internet give a lot of nicknames to shoes that Jordan Brand and Nike never uses. However, those are pretty obvious most of the time. They're usually just references to the colorway of the shoe, and you can find the association straight away. But this time, I'm just so confused. The name Vibrations of Niger, that had to come from somewhere. Those media outlets don't just print anything, they don't just come up with their own thing. So if you know exactly where the Nigerian influence is, if you're from Nigeria, if you're very familiar with the Nigerian culture, please comment below, please educate me. I really want to know. I tried to find out. Honestly, I spent a lot of time on it, and I just couldn't figure it out. There's no green anywhere on the shoe. I'm so confused. This reminds me of the Air Jordan 2 Responsibilities, where there are a lot of cool distinct features about that shoe, a lot of different messages, a lot of different additions to Jordan 2. And I feel like along the way they just abandoned the original theme but still put out the shoe. Maybe it's the same idea. Someone just tell me, educate me, please. Regardless of all that confusion, in a vacuum, just looking at the colorway, I really like the colorway of the shoe. I think it's a very nice shoe, a very nice and distinct shoe. A lot of subtle colors used on the shoe, but still loud enough to make a statement. And this shoe is dropping on May 27th for $180. It is just releasing at select retail stores, so not on Nike.com nor the SNKRS app. Maybe they'll release it somewhere down the line, but on May 27th, check out your local retail store, go to your local shop, try to find this shoe if you're interested. In the upper sole of the shoe, an all leather sail base layer, and the leather is pretty nice. Comes in that tumbled leather texture, and it feels super soft. A lot better than other general release Jordan 1s, so you don't get that super synthetic plastic coating over that leather. You can see the grain of the leather come through, you can feel how soft it is. I really like the leather on the shoe. And the color, as I mentioned, it is sail, but when sail is used so prominently, when there's no white to offset the sail, it almost seems just completely white. But when you compare it to an actual white shoe, you can definitely see the difference side by side. And of course, the most distinct feature about this shoe is the materials and the pattern that's used on the swoosh as well as the ankle collar. According to Nike, it is double layered canvas. You can see it comes in this almost carpet feeling texture, and it's in this pale vanilla and black pattern where it's almost scrambled. I'm not sure how I feel about this material yet. Usually prefer leather. I think leather is king. It'll take a while for me to get used to this, but I do like the color, I do like the pattern of the swoosh and the ankle collar. I think it's very unique. And you see the same type of pattern on the Nike Air tag on the top of the tongue. However, it doesn't come with that same material. It just comes in that standard mesh material that you see on other Jordan 1s. And of course, the Wings logo debossed on the ankle collar of the shoe and that pale vanilla color. And I gotta say, the pale vanilla color, I'm really liking it. I really like how they used it. There's not too much of it. I feel like if the upper sole was pale vanilla, I would have hated this shoe, but in these amounts and the right doses, I really dig it. And like every other Jordan 1, it does come with a rubber cup sole with a polyurethane encapsulated Nike Air unit on the heel. So very standard there. And the outsole, of course the very iconic outsole, comes in the same pale vanilla color. Now moving on to the inside of the shoe, the padding on the ankle collar. Just like other Jordan 1s, I've always enjoyed the ankle collar padding. It's very nice, very soft, very squishy, and the insole itself comes in the same pale vanilla color with Nike Air branding on top. This shoe does come with extra laces, thank God, and it comes in the same color as the base layer. If I was to choose, I think I'd still go with the default. I like the little bit of contrast with the pale vanilla and the base layer. I like how it looks. I think it makes it pop a little bit more, but I think it'll still look really nice with the extra laces. I think that color, if it just blends in with the entire upper sole, wouldn't have a big problem with it. I think it looks nice both ways. And unlike other Jordan 1 crafts, especially the lows and the mids, on the toe box of the shoe, you don't have that exposed material. I really hate that look, so I'm glad they just stick to the original design for most Jordan 1s for this craft shoe. The box of the shoe matches the pale vanilla that you see on the shoe. Comes in a very standard Nike box, nothing too special about it. Now moving on to size and comfort, I'm a size 9.5 true to size. I do have wide feet. Usually for Jordan 1s, I just go true to size. It fits pretty well, never too snug, and the length of it is pretty perfect. I have gone up half a size in Jordan 1s before, and I feel like the way the shoe is constructed, if I go up half a size, there's too much length, and when it creases, the toe box, the shape that it creases at, it just really ruins the look of the shoe. So even if you have wide feet, I do recommend staying true to size. If you do feel like it's a bit too tight, a bit too snug at first, maybe just loosen up the laces and definitely give it some break-in time. Unlike the Air Jordan 1 Next Chapter that I just reviewed, for some reason I feel like that shoe was stiffer out of the box than other Jordan 1s, but this shoe feels just like any other Jordan 1. In terms of comfort, a Nike Air unit on the heel, barely feel it. It's such a flat feeling shoe. You do get used to it after you wear it for a few hours, you get used to it during the day, but over the weekend I was wearing another shoe for most of the day. I changed to a Jordan 1, and boy do you feel it. You feel the flatness, you feel the stiffness, and you just feel the overall discomfort of a Jordan 1 when you make the switch straight away. It is an old shoe, it is made out of old technology. Can't blame them, the shoe originally came out in 1985. I'm not too surprised, but in a vacuum, especially compared to modern day shoes, Jordan 1s are not the most comfortable shoe. And that brings the total sole score to 15 out of 25, a slightly lower score than other shoes that I've reviewed. Now colorway wise, I really like this colorway. Usually, I kind of complain about the use of sail on other shoes, but that's only when they use sail on the midsole for no apparent reason. They're not going for a pre-age aesthetic, which I think is played out anyway. They just stick sail on it because it's popular nowadays. However, on this shoe, because the sail is the entire upper sole, you don't really notice it. It just seems kind of like off-white. It's not overused, so I do like the colorway. And using that pale vanilla as a slightly darker color, with this very special, very unique pattern. I really like the colorway of this shoe. And material wise, I think this is really nice leather. It feels soft. I can see the grain of the leather on the shoe come through, like the padding on the collar, on the inside. One thing I'm still unsure about is how this material on the swoosh and the ankle collar will hold up over time. I don't love how it feels. Usually I just like leather, including nubuck and suede, which are forms of leather. And when it deviates too much out of that, I'm not really a huge fan. And comfort wise, like I said, it's a Jordan 1. Expectations are low. Versatility-wise, Jordan 1, one of the most iconic, one of the most versatile silhouettes you'll ever find in sneaker history. And this colorway, because it's so subtle, it blends in so well while still making a statement. I really think it's a versatile shoe. I don't think it's too loud or too weird where people are looking at you funny. Maybe make people look twice just to pique their curiosity, but not stare at you. Storytelling-wise, as I alluded to earlier, it just gets confusing. Originally, all the media outlets, all the articles were referring to this shoe as Vibrations of Niger, and that had to come from somewhere. However, from the official news releases from Nike and Jordan Brand, never mentions that name. So I do feel like there's maybe a story to tell on the shoe, but they just kind of ditched it halfway. Unless I'm just missing the reference to Nigeria. There's no green in it, which is a very prominent color in Nigerian culture, so I don't think so. I just feel like the mixed messaging just really didn't do them any favors. Overall, I like this shoe. I like the colorway. I think the materials are better than a usual general release Jordan 1. However, I do wish Jordan Brand would spend a little bit more time on the messaging behind this shoe. Even if that name, Vibrations of Niger, came from nowhere, it wasn't their fault, and someone somewhere out there, all the media outlets apparently picked it up, just decided to call this shoe Vibrations of Niger, which I don't think is the case. But if it was the case, they could even just like send out a tweet, send out a quick article, just stating that it has nothing to do with Nigeria. However, if it does, maybe just make that obvious. In their news release, they make no mention of Niger, of Nigeria. It's just a mess. But overall, in a vacuum, I think this is still a very clean shoe, a very different shoe, but not so different that I feel like I have a hard time wearing it. And I'm still very glad that I was able to get my hands on these. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Sole Inclined. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think of the Air Jordan 1 High OG, Craft, or Vibrations of Niger. And remember, tomorrow may never come, so wear your shoes.